Philosophers is a great book. Yes, indeed. I have my copy as well right here. I don't know if you can see it with the camera. There it is.
I can't.
Great book.
Yes, I'm honored.
All right, we are here with Bill Jordan, a longtime radio personality, now turned podcaster, voiceover artist. His new book, Embrace the Boom, is out now. It can be found on Amazon and anywhere where books are sold. As soon as I saw that you had the book out, I bought it immediately. I went right on Amazon and bought it because, like you said, me and you and I, we've known each other through the past. We worked together on projects and also through the Carolina Hurricanes. Because I used to, when I first got to Raleigh back in the early 2000s, you were on the air in the mornings, and I would listen to your show all the time. And then we worked with you on some stuff. You would do promos, videos, and things like that. We'd play them out, and so I've always admired you because I always was a radio guy at heart. I always, liked radio personalities. I love the art form of radio, and you were really good. So kudos.
Thank you.
Yes,
and I appreciate, by the way, that you mentioned it's my new book, Don. It's my only book,
and it's really good. What I like about it too.
I'll take it.
Yes, indeed. What I like about it too is that I know it's it's Embrace the Boom, and it's kind of geared towards the boomer generation. But I think that it's a book for any age. I really think it's a self-help book, and I think that I wish younger people would read this because I think it could help this younger generation out, maybe more than it could help out the boomers.
Yeah, I've told numerous people, part of this, the reason I wrote this, and I gravitate to some of these quotes from the ancient philosophers, is I really wish I had had this knowledge or wisdom. I wish I had grabbed hold of it back when I was 16 years old. Seriously. Yeah. The book is for everybody, and I'll be honest with you, obviously it's not, it ain't no War and Peace. It's a little book. But it occurred to me today, Don, and see if you think this is a correct description. It's short, but it's sticky. And when I say that it's short, but it's sticky, for me, when I've talked to people who have read it, they go, I read it in a hurry, but I find myself thinking back to a particular practice, or I think about, or I've got a female friend who keeps it in her purse. Just for reference, just you're sitting there, you're waiting on something, just pull it out and you just grab something, because these are practices. I will never perfect them. We never will, because alas, we are humans.
Yes, indeed. But it is very insightful and definitely a very positive outlook on life and on the day-to-day and how to deal with things and how to deal with different problems and stuff like that. And I just think that like you said, it's sticky. You read it and it sticks with you. The little messages in there are powerful. Like the way you wrote it, it's easy to digest and it's easy to understand, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, the simpler the better. In fact, that's one of the practices. Keep it simple. So why not in my writing style? And I think also, given my radio background, everything with radio used to be, well, early on it was, all your talking was over a 15-second intro over a Doobie Brothers song. So you had to be concise. You had to make your point. You had to be very quick with it. Have a beginning, a middle, and an end in a very short period of time. I was never one of these guys, Don, who in high school, when you had your 6-week term paper or whatever, that could turn a 40-page paper. I'd turn in a 7-page paper, maybe. I said everything I wanted to say. I said it as efficiently as I possibly could say it. And that of course was, again, my training in radio. And it's natural for me to be brief. Some people will deny that, but I try to be brief.
No, it's I get what you say because with being a radio guy, you're used to writing and reading copy, and normally that has to be kind of short and to the point, and that goes with the style. And dude, it's a great read, and like you said, it's handy to have with you because it's not the type of book you read once. You kind of go back through it to say, oh yeah, what was that quote again, the Serenity poem, and or what's this or what's that, so I
Right.
could deal with
Right.
the certain scenario. Yeah.
Wait, the other thing too, Don, and I mentioned it in the book, is where I borrowed a lot of this from, and maybe put a sort of a modern spin to it, and a spin for baby boomers, is that I borrowed a lot from the ancient philosophers, the guys that we've heard about, but we don't really know anything about. I mean, Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and these guys. But when you think about it, and their quotes, they were dealing with the same human frailties that we deal with today. They're talking about ego and greed and envy and jealousy and sloth. I mean, they're talking about all this stuff that still runs through the current of everybody on the planet, and heard on that, and just put a few things together, maybe a little bit of my spin on it too, and it really has helped me, and it's a great kick for me, for somebody to have read it and say, today I was working on the today is a perfect day for me to mind my own business. And that's an important one, man. That's an important one. So, or I was just talking to my brother the other day about the 80-20 rule. What 20% of your effort gives you 80% of your result. That's kind of it in a nutshell, but we can, in trying to keep things simple, I use the example in the book, how many ball caps do I have and how many do I wear? Right. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might have 30 ball caps and I rotate 3 of them. Right.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. And some of these things are ideas or things that we've heard about since childhood, cliches. It's a cliche to say the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, to the point of where we don't even think about it. But cliches are cliches because they're true. They don't get to be a cliche unless it's been proven through time. And my spin on that, by the way, is not only just to be nice to each other, and I expect that from strangers, but for somebody that I am close with and have we've got some mutual respect going on, I expect from them, and I hope they expect from me, honest conversation and feedback about something. If they see me going down a wrong path about something, or they think I'm getting a little, my anger's getting up, or I'm losing patience about something, I want them to be honest with me and go, hey man, listen to yourself. I've got a friend who, he's under my, we had the cone of silence. You remember the Get Smart,
Right.
Maxwell Smart, he calls for the cone of silence and the cone goes down, and then nobody can hear each other. But we have the cone of silence, and I'll start unloading on him about something that's bothering me, and he'll just look at me across the table and go, listen to yourself. You're sounding like a crazy person. Well, I need that from him, right?
Right.
I need that from him because he sees me. We don't see ourselves as others see us. So I need that from people, and hopefully they can, count on me to give them some honest but gentle honesty. I mentioned in the book too, I've worked with people, and you probably have too, who every now and then will like a little aside, a little bit of a brag about, well, I can be brutally honest. And I have learned that those people are more proud of the brutality than they are of the honesty. My experience.
True indeed. Yeah, I get that too. I know a few brutally honest people, and they are pretty proud to be that brutal more
Yeah,
than the
they
honest.
are.
Yeah.
They are. Yep.
Now with in it, embracing the boom, right? So it's about embracing um getting older, and we all are
Yeah.
getting older. But do you think there's a negative, and why is there such a negative connotation in America with getting older when it's a natural thing? We all get older, but yet everything's geared towards the young.
Exactly. Sure. I'll have some young person say, "Hey, Grandpa, you need me to help you up out of your seat," and it's like, yeah, okay. You want to do some push-ups? I'll do some push-ups with you if you want to do some push-ups, young whippersnapper. Yeah, but so what's your alternative? If you're not going to get older, what's your alternative? You checking out at 35? It's funny, you go to you go to the grocery store and you go to the checkout clerk, and I'm not trying to lump everybody together, but I do notice this. It's like checkout clerk, and you say, how are you doing today? and they say, I'm fine. I'll be better in 1 hour, 23 minutes and 17 seconds when my shift is over. It's like, and then they're all frustrated. I'm getting old. I'm getting old. I said, you're getting old. How old are you going to be? I'm going to be 22. You're going to be 22 and you're getting old. Oh, I'm sorry. Poor baby. You
Yeah.
know, life hasn't hit you yet. More than likely, life has not hit you yet. So yeah, embrace the boom, the baby boomers. You know, we've heard in the last couple of years, okay, boomer, you know,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you've got a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of experience and a different take on things. And I think that we would be, I mean, like I love talking with someone who is older than I'm 68 in July. I
Oh,
like talking to some real seasoned citizen who is up and still with it. Man, I just love it and just soak up their stories. I love that so much. But I think, yeah, society is, well, I know, for example, I didn't take the broadcasting business, but I can, and there's any number of businesses where some guy who's been there or woman who's been there for a long, long time, they're getting up there in age and they're called in and told that, you know, the company is going to go in a different direction. And that different direction means typically that's corporate speak for younger and cheaper. That's what that means.
right. Yeah, yeah,
So I think we've been, you know, the word that I learned from the last election or two, Don, was disenfranchised. Different demographics have been disenfranchised. And I think that's the case with people maybe even over 50. 50-year-old is not a baby boomer, by the way. But once you get to that certain age, and there's more of a social stigma on women getting older than there is on men, you know.
yeah.
I think it's been a great thing as far as with the COVID. One of the pluses of COVID is the number of women, my wife included, who, because they couldn't get to the hair place, they've let their hair go gray, and I find it beautiful, you know. So it's just it's a way. I'm hoping that this baby boomer or embrace the boom movement helps empower and inspire and encourage my fellow members of the baby boomer generation. I mean, there's pros and cons to it, right? Yeah, you know, and I tell these kids again, 22 years old, they're getting old. It's like, look, you know, Tracy or whatever her name is, you're not getting old until you start hurting yourself in your sleep,
Right.
right? I mean,
It's
when
true.
you know, you get up and you go, "Hey, my right knee worked when I went to bed. Now it don't work. I've
Right.
hurt myself." Or you wake up and you're like, "I slept wrong." You
Yeah.
slept wrong, you know. So that's when you know when you've got to start doing warm-up exercises before you go to bed. That's when you're starting to get. That's when you're starting to get a little bit older. But I don't think you're getting old until you start thinking old. Because I'm telling you, and I think this is the case with most people my age, older or any age, we're all kind of stuck mentally at 23, 25 years old. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I can look at myself and go, obviously, lost the hair. My hair's gone past salt and pepper. It used to be dark brown, almost black. You know, now it hadn't, you know, turned white, it's turned loose, and I accept that. That's all part. That's all part of the you know, the serenity prayers I talk about in the practices. Accept the things I cannot change,
right
and that's
on.
another thing, another one that we've heard a million times, but we don't practice it. Do we really accept the things we cannot change? It's a hard thing to do sometimes, but once you get the hang of it, you know, a game, for example, I mean, you know, people, I
Yeah.
mean, they're in there crying because their team lost.
But yeah, like you said, you gotta you can't you got to accept the things you can't change, and like you said, like the score of a game or anything like that. But
Sure.
two, like you know, to go back to the my other point about the kids today, you know, there's this negative connotation with getting older, but in other cultures, you always see the respect for the elders, and they're well respected and high regards, and they look to them for wisdom. And
Right.
you know, I would like to see that more of our young people. Instead, they're going to, you know, well, social medias and all these other things, and you know, I don't know. I start to feel like I'm sounding like like that older generation now because I just turned 50, but I'm like I want respect for the older generation, like we have always done. You know?
Sure. 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 Well, you know, that's one of the other things, man. In the serenity prayers was, God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know it's me. So you may want respect from everybody else. you're not going to change them. I mean, think about when we try to change our own habits, how hard it is to change ourselves. We're certainly not going to change anybody else. So I think for me, like for my daughter and son-in-law and my grandkids and friends, maybe younger friends. And it's also my child will be 40 in December when her friends become my friends. That's a
Right.
really cool thing, So, but I just try to live my life as just, that maybe, yeah, hey, Mr. Jordan, man, he's kind of a cool old guy, So I'd like for him to say that. So I'm not disrespected, but so much. I mean, every now and then you get the okay boomer kind of thing, and I just laugh, I just laugh.
Right. There's so much great stuff in this book. Like I love the law of opposites, because I do think there's something to that, and to also have gratitude. So like to have that kind of gratitude towards the little things, like like you mentioned in the book about seeing the sunrise, the smell of the coffee, and all these things. And then the law of opposites is the people who aren't seeing this sunrise, or they don't have
Right,
you know coffee and stuff like that.
right.
I think that goes a long way, as
Sure.
you know is where did for that kind of logic, where did that come from? Is that like just an outlook you've always had?
I've got some, no, no, I've got a friend of mine, a guy named Scott Spooner, and he and I used to meet, and he would lay some of this stuff on me and about the law of opposites. And it's like, and he's right. You don't appreciate the light until you've been in the dark. And that's not only literally, but figuratively, of course. If you've ever, sprained an ankle or, you know, broken a finger or something, then all of a sudden it's like just to walk or to tie your shoes is a big deal. And then once you can, then you're like, wow, I can tie my shoe, man, I can walk and I'm not limping. And then being the humans that we are, we start taking that for granted again very, very quickly. But yeah, you've got to kind of maybe put your mind in, all these problems I've got for the most part, outside of maybe some health issues in the family and stuff. All the problems I've got are first world problems. You
Right.
look at Ukraine or Central Africa, what's going on there, or otherwise. I mean, you don't have to look far. Take a tour of any children's hospital, any hospital at all, and you'll get a really heavy duty dose of perspective and how fortunate and how blessed you truly are.
Yes, indeed. And that's again like all it's so positive, and all the good like messages in there, and it's just such a great kind of self-help guide too. I think anybody can benefit from this. Also, speaking of getting older and retiring, is Coach K, legendary Duke basketball coach, just had his last March Madness this year. He wrote the intro to this book. Tell me about your relationship with Coach K, and how you managed to get him to co-sign on the book like that.
Oh, did I get him to do it? It's interesting. I was thinking the other day, when we was wrapping things up at the NCAA tournament. Uh, um, I met him, I guess I was working at G105 in Durham. So this was probably 87 or 88. And I was working the phone bank with the rest of the air staff there at the Searle Center over at Duke for the Children's Miracle Network for the telethon. And he was one of the MCs. And so that's how I met him. I was answering phones and work with him or get to know him or he me until I moved over to WRAL FM, Capital Broadcasting's FM station in Raleigh, and doing mornings there. And we did a radiothon for Duke Children's Hospital, and he'd come over every year and help out with that. And that's when we became friends. And when I say people, that Mike Krzyzewski and I are friends, well, we're not the kind that, I don't have his phone number. We'll put it that way. I couldn't call him up and go, hey, Mike, can you help me move on Saturday? Have you got access to a pickup truck? We're not that kind of friend. But if he is your friend in the arena of where he can help you, he will help you. Years ago at Radiothon, during a break, as song playing or commercials or something, and just when he and I were talking, I asked him if he could give me 20 minutes after the season, after basketball season, 20 minutes that I had some ideas to run by him for a motivational speech or a talk that I was thinking that I would want to do. I've always liked that idea. I don't know if I've got the personality for it. I don't smile naturally. I've got that resting grump face kind of thing to where people go, smile, what are you in a bad mood for? It's like, I'm in a great mood. Now I'm in a bad mood. His assistant after the season, and sure, I'd be happy to listen to your ideas. I asked him for 20 minutes. After the season, I contacted his assistant. She said, yeah, Michael, see you at whatever time or whatever day, park in this parking lot, come on up to the tower. So I go up to the tower, and who is, this mecca office of his, that's just, amazing. Don, he told me to sit on the couch. I walk over to the couch. He brought a chair over to me, sat down in the chair in front of the couch there in his office and listened to me. I asked him for 20 minutes. He gave me 90 minutes.
Wow.
And I think that was the germination of Embrace the Boom. Not everything I was thinking about in that talk, but I knew it would germinate into something else. And he's advised me on a couple of other things, or I would call him and, what do you think about this? And he was like, he'd kind of poo-poo something, or he has been in that regard. He has been incredible. And, leading up to the NCAAs, I understand rivalry. If I may go off on a little bit of a tangent, I understand sports rivalries. I mean, I grew up as a Baltimore Orioles fan, going to the Baltimore Orioles game in Memorial Stadium in Baltimore when I was a little kid, when you could actually walk the streets of Baltimore after night games and walk down alleys and everything else. You're not going to do it now. But my dad always would try to schedule our vacation around the Yankee series. And of course, if you're an Oriole fan, you don't like the Yankees, or if you're a Boston fan, you really don't like the Yankees, and vice versa. But I never experienced the hate. And with the NCAA, some of the hate that Mike Krzyzewski endures is just I understand, again, sports rivalry, but there is absolute hate that I just don't get. So anyway, long story short, and that has never led to a short story, by the way. When you ask, how did I get him to do it? I merely emailed him and said, hey, I've got this book, Embrace the Boom. And a lot of it came from that 90-minute chat you allowed me to visit with you for an hour and a half, a few years back. Would you mind writing a little something as a forward or an introduction? And he sent me back what he wrote. And he said, let me know if this isn't good enough and I'll do better. It's like my Krzyzewski is asking me if what he wrote was good enough. So, I mean, that's kind of the guy he is. So, in fact, I've got to send him one of the books. I don't know what he's going to do with it, but just as a thank you, and thank you for a friendship and stuff. And every year, he and my wife have got this thing where for my wife's birthday, it's in December, she gets a couple of tickets to a Duke home game. Now, it's not going to be Duke Carolina or something like that, but we get in there and we get some good seats behind the bench, and it's the mecca of basketball, man. So it's a special relationship that I've got. And he does so much more for the community, for Duke Children's, for the Emily K. Krzyzewski Center for Disadvantaged Kids, helping them get scholarships into college. He does so much more than people know.
Oh yeah. And like you said about the rivalries there, I was worked at NC State basketball, and I've seen the rivalries over there, and it's like the three of the elite basketball teams in the world, pretty much all within miles of each other. But yeah, I never understood the hate either, but the rivalries do make the games that much better sometimes. But like you said, we could do without the hate, to hate on
humans. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Well, you know what that is, Don? I think you know what it is. Think hate. What do people say they hate? Think about it. I hate snakes. I hate spiders. I hate dark water. What are they really saying? I'm afraid of.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's what the rivalry is. I mean, Carolina's afraid of Duke. Duke's afraid of Carolina. They're so evenly matched most of the time. They're afraid they're going to lose. And I think that's what drives the hate. It's really, they're saying I'm afraid. They just don't want to say I'm afraid.
Right. Exactly.
I'll probably hear about that statement.
Well, it's easier to hate than it is it's easier to say you hate something than to say you're afraid of something.
Right.
But now, so for people who get this book, what's the biggest takeaway you want for them to have?
I guess, is mindset. Again, this book taps into 15/16 practices, and I do call them practices because, as I said, you're never going to perfect it. If somebody gets out of law school, they open their legal practice. You graduate from medical school, you open up your medical practice. So if these people never get it right, we're certainly not going to get stuff right. So I think it will give you maybe a new way to look at things. I think it should lead you to a calmer life, maybe a more accepting life, but also to just try to be the best person you can be. Don, let me share this with you. And it's something that I heard. I don't know where I heard it or read it. And it hit me as the proverbial cliche of like a ton of bricks. And that is a hypothetical definition of hell. And this hypothetical definition of hell is that at the moment, right before we die, we are introduced to the person we could have been. And we get a big choice in life, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And that's what this book is about. And thinking of our lives as, and just try to keep everything on an even keel. Your emotions and your spiritual life are a little bit out of whack. So the idea is to get everything in whack. We spend too much time out of whack. We need to be in whack.
Yes, I love that. Let's get in whack.
In
Instead
whack.
of out of whack. Yes,
That's
great. That's great. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. It's great to see you. It's been a few years. We said, like, what is it, 2014 last time I saw you?
Something like that, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So just tell everybody where they could follow you and get the book and all that good stuff.
Sure. I've got a kind of an umbrella website, Bill Jordan, embracetheboom.com. And there's links to the YouTube channel where I talk about all the practices on different videos. There's a link to the book, I believe, at the top of the page. So again, this book's like 125 pages. Ounce mugs, 15. It'll hold 15 ounces of whatever you want to put in it. I've got a friend I went to high school with. She keeps her makeup brushes in it, right? So, but again, this is, Don, this is, a shameless plug for me. I drink my coffee from it every morning. I'm a coffee addict. It is an anchor to just see this. By the way, it's amphibious, right? It's left-handed or right-handed.
Nice.
And right, so it's amphibious. So, but it's an anchor for my day to remind me of where I am in life, to embrace where I am, to be a positive where I am. And when you think about, here's the analogy I've got, the metaphor. If you've ever been offshore fishing, for example, you go out there and the captain's got his GPS or whatever he's got, his maps, and he knows where the wreck is, where the reef is, where the fish are really biting, and he'll drop an anchor there. Now, if he doesn't drop an anchor, what happens? He drifts. So he started off with something really, really good, but if he's not anchored, he moves away from that. And I think that's the same way with our lives. We let little things start spinning away from us. We get caught up in that drift, and then we get away from maybe some good habits, go towards some bad habits. So this is sort of a symbolic anchor for my day. So there you have it. Bill Jordan, embracetheboom.com. Also, by the way, the book is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com. There will be an ebook coming in a while, but the idea right now is to push the book. I like the idea, and I get people with their Kindles and stuff. I like the idea of the book because you can yellow highlight, well, you can connection of the brain with putting a pen or a connection to the brain. I believe every day, I hope it helps. Anyway, I think there's a couple of nuggets in there, maybe some gems in there that will make you or lead you to start thinking about some things in your life a little bit differently, and maybe lead to a little improvement in how you feel about your life.
Yes, indeed. Thanks so much. Embrace the Boom. I love this book. I've already read it once already. I'm probably going to read it a few more times because it's always got like great messages that get, like you said, sticky. And yeah, I'm going to do my best to get in whack. That's what I'm taking away from that.
Yeah, man, get in whack. There's too much time out of whack.
Yes.
It's just like people are feeling under the weather. I want to feel above the weather. No one
Yes.
ever says they're above the weather. They're always under the weather. You know?
True indeed. Thank you again, Bill. Much appreciated. Everybody, please get the book at all ages, but especially
Absolutely.
if you are of the baby boomer generation. Embrace the
Yep, I
boom.
appreciate that. And as I like to say, live your life, forget your age, and embrace the boom. Thanks, Don.
Yes. Thank you. Bill Jordan, everybody.